Hello cuties, welcome back to my lesson 3 health cuties video. Hope you like this video. Okay, so we're gonna be, this slide is all about 6 facts about the famous artist that you probably didn't know. Health cuties lesson 3, welcome back. So a lot of people say Pablo Picasso did steal the Mona Lisa, but a lot of people he didn't. But let's find out what the truth is. Pablo Picasso was many things during his prolific career: painter, sculptor, playwright, but there's one occupation that the histories leave off that list: accused art thief. On August 21, 1911, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre. 8 days later, a man named Joseph Gary Perret revealed to the Paris Journal that Picasso and his friends, avant-garde poet Apollinaire, were in possession of the Iberian sculptures that had also been stolen from the Louvre. This made Picasso one of the top suspects of the theft of Leonardo's painting. In truth, Perret himself had stolen the statues and sold them to Picasso, who bought them despite the stamps at their bottoms that read, "Property of Louvre Museum." Picasso turned over the statues to the Paris Journal, but both he and Apollinaire were questioned in court regarding the whereabouts of the Mona Lisa. However, no evidence could be found that tied them to the theft, and they were eventually released. In December 1913, the relief of Picasso, the Mona Lisa, turned up in Florence, Italy. It was revealed that a Louvre employee named Vincenzo Perugia had stolen the painting in an attempt to return it to its native Italy. Okay, that was really interesting. So Pablo Picasso didn't steal the Mona Lisa, but a lot of people blamed it on him because he bought it from from Event's great poet. So Perret himself had stolen the statues and sold them to Picasso. And Picasso saw it, and he still bought the paintings or the sculptures that still had the name on the back that said "Property of Louvre Museum." So that is where it concludes right now for Pablo Picasso. That's a good thing. Salvador Dali thought he was his dead brother. This fact may not sound far-fetched when considering its source is the Norishly odd Salvador Dali. But this wasn't something he simply claimed just to raise eyebrows. Dali had an older brother named Salvador. Tragically, he never met his older sibling. 9 months before Dali was born, his brother died of gastronitis. At the age of 5, Dali's parents took him to the grave of his brother and told Dali that he was the reincarnation of his brother. He came to believe this is a fact and truly believed that he was his reincarnating sibling. Years later, Dali featured image of the previous Salamander in several of his paintings, including Portrait of My Dead Brother. So I could not find the portrait of my dead brother, but I did find a picture of Salvador Dali. Leonardo da Vinci was a procrastinator. Leonardo da Vinci is unquestionably one of the most famous artists in history. Ironically, one quirk that made him such a genius was that he was easily distracted. Despite being the epitome of a Resistance man, Leonardo had a penchant for leaving his works unfinished. Evidence for this is seen in hundreds of notes and sketches he left behind for projects following his death in 1519. Need more evidence? Two of his most famous works took combined 17 years to finish. Leonardo worked on his influence mural, The Last Supper, which is on the background, for 3 years, and later he went a whopping 14 years completing the famous surprising Mona Lisa. It's said that Leonardo only finished The Last Supper after his partner finally threatened to cut off his funds. Vincent van Gogh only sold one painting on record. Now, Regarded as one of the art history's greatest painters, most impressionist Vincent van Gogh didn't experience the success he deserved. Instead, the artist only managed to sell one painting during his lifetime. Or were there more? The painting he sold is on the back over here. Van Gogh officially sold one painting, The Red Vineyard at Arles, before committing suicide in 1890. This is backed up to the authenticated document that shows the painting was sold to a fellow painter, Anna Boch, in early 1980. Despite this, the scholars of Van Gogh have challenged this long-standing lore, proposing that in 1888, Van Gogh's brother Theo sold one of the artist's self-portraits before the sale of the Red Vineyard at Arles. Additionally, the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam purports that the artist sold or bartered many paintings while alive, with letters written to Van Gogh suggesting that he sold many works to relatives. Okay, let's move on. Pere Auguste Renoir painted despite crippling arthritis. Pere Auguste Renoir was the founder of the Impressionist movement, suffered from rheumatoid arthritis starting in 1892. Amazingly, Renoir continued to paint for the last 20 years of his life despite the pain and limitations he suffered. Renoir could still hold a brush in his hand, but required an assistant to place it there first. With his brush in place, Renoir had an assistant stand by to arrange his palette as he painted. He also worked with a moving canvas so he could create larger works. Contrary to the popular belief, the bandages seen on Renoir's hands in photos from his last years weren't from strapping brushes on his hands. Instead, they prevented his curled fingers from digging up to his palms. So this is our last fact, people. Francesco Goya found an interesting way to get into an art school. This is really interesting. There's an old adage of it's not known. It's who you know when it comes to advancing one's career. In case of Spanish artist Francisco Goya, it seems a combination of both contributed to his eventual enrollment of prestigious art academy. In 1763 and 1766, Goya submitted entries to enroll to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts of San Fernando and Madrid. He was rejected both times following these attempts. Goya traveled to Italy in 1770 to refine his technique. After returning to Madrid in 1771, he befriended and studied with artist Francisco Goya, who happened to have a membership at the Royal Academy. In 1773, Goya married Goya's sister, Josefa. These helpful connections, in addition to Goya's rising success as an artist, finally granted him admission to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts of San Francisco in 1780. 5 years later, the Academy appointed him to be the deputy director of painting, and in 1786 he was appointed as the painter to King Charles III. So, did you learn something new, cuties? Okay, I hope you did. Meet you next time. Bye, cuties.